his brain, the podcast where I, Sean, embark on a journey to understand what's happening in my own head. Spoiler alert, I have no clue, but that's precisely why we're here. In each episode, I explore questions about the brain that I believe will resonate with all of us. Like, why can't I turn my brain off at 3 a.m.? Why my memory only works when it feels like it? And why my brain seems to betray me when I need it most. Listen, I'm not a scientist. I'm no expert. I'm just a guy looking to unravel the mysteries of my own mind. Fortunately, I happen to know a cognitive neuroscientist who is an expert in the brain, and I get to ask him all the questions I want. So, if you're curious, confused, or simply along for the ride, welcome. And hey, if you like what you hear, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to the podcast, or whatever it is you do wherever you listen to podcasts. I don't know how the algorithms work. I just know that your support keeps this journey moving forward. And together, we might just discover something remarkable. This is John Teaches Sean about his brain. Let's get started. Hi, John. It's good to see you.
Hey, Sean. Good seeing you again.
So, what is on your mind this week?
I thought maybe today we've been talking about the on channel and the back channel, which is really, for new listeners, the on channel is conscious awareness, and the back channel is everything that your brain does outside of your awareness. So almost everything is happening in the back channel, and it's difficult for us to be aware of what the back channel is doing, but it will send signs. I mean, we can learn from it it communicates through urges and impulses. And a lot of times if we'll stop and pay attention to what we have an urge to do or we're thinking about doing, it will give us some insight into how the back channel works. And I had a really interesting example of this happen a couple of nights ago. And so I thought maybe I would share that with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So a little bit first about a routine that I have, of an evening when my wife and I are getting ready for bed. We have different things that we do, different chores. Everybody does that. Mine is when I'm just wrapping up at the very end, I take the dogs outside one last time, and then I go in and make coffee in the pot. So I put the water and grounds in so that it's ready to go the next morning. All I have to do is push the button. Okay. And so then I'm kind of ready for bed. I can go in the bedroom and then I can do whatever and go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, all of that to go to bed. But that's kind of the last thing I do before I go in the room. And then in the mornings when I wake up, I try to get up before everybody else so that I have some quiet time. And I like to read and do some things just when the house is really quiet. So I'll hit the coffee pot, have a cup of coffee, read, think, those types of things. And I try to be really quiet just to be a good roommate to my wife, so I'm not like banging stuff and waking her up. And also, just as importantly, to keep the dogs from getting stirred up, because then I have to take them out and all of that. And I just kind of want my own time. Yeah. So heading to bed, I'd been upstairs. I came down. My wife came down. She was doing some stuff around too, but I put my phone and glasses on a table in between the kitchen and the bedroom, and went in, made the coffee, and took the dogs out, was coming back through and grabbed my phone, but my glasses weren't there. And so I thought, where's my glasses? So I thought maybe I've already put them in the room, and I walked in, they weren't on my nightstand. So I went on an all-out search looking for my glasses. I even went back upstairs, looked everywhere I'd been there, looked all in the kitchen. I looked on top of things, just everywhere. And I couldn't find them. And Casey said, "What are you doing?" And by this time was in bed, sitting up, looking at her phone. And my first thought was, I wonder if Casey took my glasses. So I looked at her, and she was wearing glasses, and I looked more closely, stared at her, and it was her glasses. She was wearing her glasses. Mm-hmm. So, and mine weren't on her nightstand. So I just said, "I'm looking for my glasses." And she said, "Do you need my help?" And I said, "No, she said, "Just retrace your last steps." I said, "I kind of have." And I came down and set them on the table. And she said, "Have you gone upstairs?" I said, "Yeah." So she gave a couple of suggestions, and I said, I distinctly remember setting them on the table with my phone and then going in to make coffee. And so I turned back around to go in and start looking some more, and I heard her burst out laughing. And I came and like peeked back around the corner, like, what? And she was laughing really hard. She was holding up my glasses. And I said, where did you find them? And she said, they were on my nightstand. And I said, how did they get there? And she said, you know how they got there. She had, as she was walking through the room, she saw, because she's usually looking for her glasses, just like me.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw, because they shaped kind of alike, they're the same color. She grabbed them thinking they were hers, put them on her nightstand, and then, found her glasses later without thinking about it, put her glasses on. So that part was funny. But the next morning when I got up, I always grab my phone and glasses and take them out of the room because I don't want to wake anybody up, Casey
Right.
or the dogs or anything. So I went, started the pot of coffee, sat down, pulled my phone out to look at a couple of things and thought, where am I? Sorry, I missed the most important part. As I was walking in to turn on the coffee pot, the thought of my glasses popped into my mind. And I was walking by that table and I thought, I thought of the glasses because that's where I laid them last night. And I just replayed that whole thing about Casey taking them and had a good chuckle to myself about how funny that was. Turned the coffee on, went and sat down. I was like, where are my glasses? And
Oh
then it
no.
hit me. I'd left them. I knew where they were now. They were back on the nightstand. So I had to go in and get them. And I did wake the dogs up. So I did have to take the dogs out. But it was that thought of my back channel saying glasses, trying to remind me. I had that feeling of my glasses. I need my glasses. But it wasn't, it was just kind of that urge to get my glasses. And I interpreted it, my on channel interpreted it as, I'm thinking about that story again from last night. But that's kind of what made me aware of I think my back channel was trying to communicate, get your glasses before you sit down.
Yeah.
And I didn't interpret it correctly.
So that's a really good story for me because again, I'm not going to express this the right way, but it's like what I'm hearing you say is your back channel there's a pattern that you've set, right? Every morning I get this, I go do that. And you've done it enough where that's what you do. But this morning you got up and there was a disruption in that pattern, meaning the glasses were sitting on the table, but your back channel doesn't this is where I stumble. Your back channel doesn't communicate in a way that like we think about communication. In other words, I don't want to say it this way, but your back channel was screaming at you, don't forget your glasses, but it can't speak. And so whatever message it was sending, your on channel, which, I wouldn't say it doesn't speak, but it's a lot more deliberate and logical, kind of got some message about glasses and went, oh yeah, that funny story. And your back channel just wants to scream and go, no, you forgot your glasses.
You idiot. I'm trying to tell you to get your glasses.
Get your glasses.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's the old, I don't even know what you call it, an adage or what, maybe you can help me even with the words, but trust your gut. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think when people say that, what they mean is listen to the messages that your back channel is sending you, whether it's about danger. People talk about the hair on the back of my neck stood up or any of that, but all of those are signals from your back channel. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is accurate. And I was telling our mutual friend, Chris Richardson, about this, and he said, there are times when I know that I'm getting ready to leave a room or go somewhere, and I know I'm forgetting something. And he said, normally I'd have that feeling and just keep going and then later be angry with myself. And he said, now that he's part of Preflex and mm-hmm. Preflex training company and all. And so he's been learning about all of this for years. So he said, now when I get that feeling, I just stop and go, okay, I'm going to wait and figure this out. And he'll do a few, and then all of a sudden it'll pop into his mind, oh yeah, I was supposed to do this thing or that thing. And he said, it feels like, there's something trying to communicate with me. But instead of rushing out of the room, I pay attention to it, and that's usually really helpful. And if you do that, if you start paying attention to it, you become more in tune to it, and it does help you.
So acknowledging, like what you were saying with Chris, mm-hmm. when you get that feeling of you're forgetting something, and you stop and just kind of let your on channel start sorting through. Okay, I have this or I have that. That's what you're saying is it. So for mm-hmm. you, when you glasses and you stop at the table, is it the funny story or is it I'm
Yeah,
forgetting
apparently I'm
something?
not very good yet at letting my back channel tell me what I need to know. And that's the thing, your on channel is a sense maker. So
Hmm.
without even trying to, when it gets some information, it wants to make sense of it. So when it gets urges and impulses from the back channel, it wants to make sense of those things. And so it will create stories really. And I think I told you before about Alan Alda and Michael Gazaniga
Yeah,
and their split
split
brain.
brain. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Again, if you watch that, you'll understand it better where the back channel is trying to communicate and the on channel makes up a story and reasons why,
right,
because that's what we do. And then a lot of times people misinterpret it. So they'll say, I was getting ready to go to, to a certain event or meet a certain person. And I just had this really strong feeling that I shouldn't do that. And I think that something bad would have happened if I would have done it. And what that probably is your back channel works by detecting patterns. And if there's a pattern or if there's something that's happened in the past that didn't turn out well for you, your back channel is going to try to help you avoid that. Or if there's something you don't really like, it's going to try to help you avoid that. So it pushes forward those feelings of I don't want to do this right now. Then our on channel will try to interpret it as maybe it's because something bad is going to happen because we have to find reason for it.
right.
So like
It's the
driving,
universe telling me not to go,
yes,
and
yes.
that's more acceptable than actually just saying my back channel is trying to make me comfortable
Hmm.
or not uncomfortable. Is it?
Yeah, so like driving, some people get really stressed and tense when there's heavy traffic.
Hmm.
And so if you have two routes to drive, I've had somebody tell me once, I was getting ready to drive and there's something just told me, take this other route. I think something bad would happen. I might have had an accident or something. So they took the route that's a little bit longer, but no traffic because they felt like something bad was going to happen in traffic. But it's like your back channel knows how stressful it is to drive in traffic. So it's trying to guide you, like it's saying, giving you kind of the urge, take this route instead, just to get you away from that traffic. And
But
then
our on channel, which is this, which makes sense of the world,
mhm,
then is left with the responsibility of coming up. Because my understanding from you is the on channel is always looking for cause and effect, right? Like
mhm.
trying to reason. So now the on channel's left with making up a reason, and making up it's trying to come up with the most logical explanation for why you did what you did or you feel the way that you do.
Yeah, and even if you're in the car by yourself and there's nobody there saying, "Why did you do this?" You still feel compelled to explain why you just took that route. Like, "Oh, I just
Right.
took that route because if I wouldn't have, I probably would have been involved in something horrific or an accident or whatever, or stuck in traffic." So, yeah, we just always are compelled to explain our feelings when a lot of times sometimes it's the back is just random stuff that pops up, but
Hmm.
most of the time the back channel is pushing forward things to communicate with us.
And we just sometimes don't listen
Yeah.
or mistake the message.
Or if it's like a certain type of food that you don't really like,
Hmm.
or if you've been to a restaurant with a certain type of food and you've gotten sick from it a couple times or whatever, and then a friend says, hey, let's go try this new restaurant that serves that food, and you get that feeling like, I don't want to. And so you say, and maybe you don't understand, you don't connect it directly with, I've gotten sick on that food. So it's just, they say, let's try this new restaurant. And you go, and you want to say no, but you have to have a reason. So you go,
Right.
that's kind of far. Let's go somewhere closer. And you might not even understand why you're saying that, but your back channel's going, let's don't go there. We've gotten sick on that food before. So you come up with reasons like, that's a little far away. I don't know if I have time. Let's try this one instead.
And in some cases where the on channel, you might not be comfortable answering this question. I always do this to you, but I was just thinking in some cases, if the on channel is really struggling to come up with a reason why you don't want to go, um, in some circumstances, is it possible it just says, "Oh, I've heard bad things about that place,"
Yeah, I
right?
think
Like
that's
something
possible. Yeah.
that if you were pressed on that by the person, go, "What do you mean you heard from
From
who?"
who? What'd you hear?
And
Yeah.
right, and again, it doesn't happen all the time, but I feel like in this, the on channel is so compelled to come up with a reason that sometimes, it's not lying, but it just makes up this reason that sounds plausible to try to justify the feeling or even sometimes the behaviors of the back channel, right?
Yep, I 100% agree with that.
Okay, wow. So I wanted to ask you. So we were in a conversation, just a couple of friends, and it was not even the point of the conversation, but somebody had brought up multitasking, like they had this, this ability uh, to be doing one thing but focused on another, and it brought me back to um, when I graduated from the police academy. So the kind of the structure for most agencies is you go to the academy for a set amount of time. When you graduate, then they put you in. It's we call it post academy training, but they put you in a car with a senior officer who then lets you kind of learn under they're watching out for your safety and all of that while you're applying the things you learned in the academy. So not really the point of this, but one of the measures, there's these metrics that they use to evaluate new officers every shift. One of the metrics, the thing is just called ability to multitask. And I remember back then, I didn't know you. I didn't know anything about my brain. Not saying that I do now. We're like 8 episodes into this, but even then it was like, okay, multitasking is something I'm going to be graded on every day. And so that was the ability to, according to this metric in field training, was, drive the car, listen to the radio, be looking at the computer, all of these different things. And then if you miss a radio call because you're driving or doing anything else, you get graded down a lower grade on multitasking. And so to kind of try to put it more succinctly, this conversation that we were having recently led me back to that memory of I was being graded on multitasking. But the question is do I, Sean, have the ability to multitask in the way I described it?
In the way you described it, yes, you can drive and listen to the radio.
Okay.
So that part of it's true. I think that the term, there's there's a scientific understanding of that term, and it would say, no, you cannot multitask because you can't do multiple things at once. You can, and it comes down to attention.
Oh,
So
okay.
let's just talk about attention for a second. When we're talking about multitasking, we're talking about dividing our attention between tasks. And so attention is, some people describe it as a spotlight, like you're in a dark room and whatever you spotlight is what you're paying attention to. So it's kind of similar to that. It's not the best analogy.
Oh, but I like it. I like that analogy.
Okay, so like you're in a dark room and you shine a flashlight on like a chair over on the side, and so that's what's got your attention right now.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also want to pay attention to, man, I'm really bad at coming up with analogies on the fly. What else would be in a dark room you'd want? Maybe a clock on the wall.
Okay.
So you turn and shine your spotlight over on the clock and see what time it is, but then you say, was there a pillow in that chair? So you shine the spotlight back on the chair, but you can't see if the pillow's on the chair and tell the time at the same time. You have to divide your attention between those two tasks, and the spotlight kind of tells where you're at. So really, if you think about like when multitasking is studied in the lab, it's more about divided attention, and then it comes down to attentional shifting. And how quickly can you shift your attention between things? It's almost like juggling. I've got to juggle driving and listening to the radio, but it's not it's not quite that straightforward either in real life, because once you've automatized a task like driving,
mm-hmm.
you're not paying hardly any attention to that unless something in your driving environment draws your attention. Like if there's a little kid that comes running down a hill towards the sidewalk and then turns on the sidewalk to walk up the sidewalk, but you don't know up the sidewalk, but you don't know if that little kid's going to go ahead and run out in the road or not. So all of a sudden now that's garnered all of your attention. But otherwise, you can drive and listen to a conversation over the police radio or from somebody sitting beside you and give them your attention because driving is automatic.
But if you were doing a task that was not automatized, so I mean, because that what you're saying makes sense. Driving, I've been driving long enough. I don't have it's automatic for me unless the little kid or a car cuts me off. Something in the environment draws my attention. But what about if it's so paying attention to something else doesn't affect my automatic behaviors, given no change in the environment?
No, because your back
autopilot
channel
drive.
just run. Yeah, and that's the problem with distracted driving, right? Because then you're distracted by something else, and you aren't controlling your driving. Your back channel is just trying. You rear end somebody, the car in front of you. It's like I wasn't paying attention because you were giving your attention was divided. You were paying attention to something else.
Okay, so going back to police work. So what I know how to drive. I've been driving long enough. That's pretty automatic. I have radio traffic in my ear, and actually coming out of the police radio. So let's just say the police radio, and then a call. Excuse me, a call comes up on the computer with an address. So now I'm driving. I'm listening to the radio, and there's an address that says, I have to go to this location, and you see where I have to figure out where that address is. I'm trying to listen to relevant information about what the call is. So, descriptions of people, maybe descriptions of all that information, and I'm driving.
Can you just turn your lights on, the red lights, and just stop in the middle of the road till you figure it all out and then start driving and turn them off again?
I think that would have been my last day in FTO.
Yeah. No, there are so many things you have to juggle. And that can be the problem because that gets back to another term we've talked about before, cognitive overload. You can only juggle so many things. And then as you keep trying to throw more things in to juggle them, you start dropping things and things start happening. So it gets really difficult. And then if you add stress on top of it, then that cuts down how many things you can juggle. So I think that another maybe thing to point out that will help this is that since its attention is something your on-channel controls for the most part, you can shine your spot. You can decide what to pay attention to. You can shine your spotlight in different directions. But there's also your attention can be grabbed or captured by something else without your will, without you doing it. So and it's usually an external event, like a flash of light somewhere off to the side. You, without thinking, your head just turns to see what that flash of light was. Or if there's a big boom, you stop immediately. So there's things that can take it away from you, but otherwise you have kind of control what you're doing with it. And I just remembered, I think we mentioned this briefly at one point, when you're watching your television set and you're listening to a news anchor and you're reading stuff across the top and down the side, that's referred to as multitasking, but it's really attentional shifting or attentional switching because you're shifting between different tasks back and forth. And we can do it so quickly and so rapidly, it feels like we're doing several things at once. But when you get people in the lab and you're measuring brain activity and you're measuring, tracking eyes and all of that type of stuff, it becomes apparent very quickly that you cannot do two things at once, really. You switch back and forth between them.
And so you're switching between those two things you're not doing. So, and again, this is a schema from movies and I don't know where I got this thing from, but it's like a measure when they're trying to illustrate how intelligent someone is in a movie sometimes, or even in a TV show, it's like they're doing 5 things. Do you know what I mean? They're playing you in chess, writing a paper, reading, doing all of these things at once. But that's actually the opposite, because it feels like if I'm trying to do more than one thing at a time, well, let me ask you, it's not what it feels like. Does that do anything to efficiency, productivity? If I'm doing 2 or 3 things, I'm thinking about work now, right?
Yeah.
And because doesn't it take time, even if it's, maybe you can tell me, but to switch in between those tasks, Isn't there a little bit of a delay there, a little bit of time spent?
There is, but it's really such a small amount of time. I don't think that would be the issue. I think it comes down to what's the task. Because if
Okay.
the task is, I have to drive and I have to listen to the radio and I have to look at the address, then being able to shift attention back and forth rapidly is a good thing. So that's going to help you with your job.
Oh,
But if
oh,
it's
okay.
I've got to write a report, a detailed report, and I'm on a deadline, that requires sustained attention. Now you have to focus on one thing and block everything out. So thoughts that come in, you have to block those out. All of that. Other people, noises, you have to try to block everything out so that you can really focus on getting your thoughts together for the report that has to be your manager's wanting that day at the end of the day or something. Or for you, like your sergeant said, hey, write up this report. You've got to put everything out and try to remember and put down on paper what that is. Now that's sustained attention, and that uses tons of resources, attentional resources, to kind of gatekeep everything else out while you write. And that can be, exhausting. So at that point, what people call multitasking, attentional shifting, is not good.
Right.
Sustained attention is. And
So,
then there's things like ADHD and other
oh,
things that make that difficult,
yeah. I mean, the attentional ADHD, attentional deficit hyperactive, is that
hmm
so?
Attention
The
deficit hyperactivity disorder.
But the first part is where is the lack of ability to focus on, to shine a spotlight.
It's I think maybe a better way to think about it would be it's the inability to hold other thoughts out, to hold other things out.
So, okay, so back to, you're trying to focus on writing the report, and you just can't hold all of that external noise, all that stuff out.
Yeah. So everybody's bombarded with things. It's some people can block those things out, and other people, it's harder for them to block things out.
Mm.
And that's an attentional deficit is what we would say.
Oh, so this is going to lead us into treacherous waters, maybe, but cell phones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm only speaking for myself, but I know that I have this. It's probably not weird, but I have this weird impulse that when I get a notification on my phone for anything, I have to look at it and I have to clear that notification. Like if I open up
Notifications
an
bug
app,
me.
if I open an app and there's a little number or something there that says you have something, I've got to get rid of it. I have to see what it is and clear that notification. And so I feel like my phone in some circumstances draws the spotlight,
Mm-hmm.
because right now my phone is next to me and it's
Mm-hmm.
black. The screen is black, nothing on there. But I will tell you this, even as engaged as I am in this conversation, if it lights up, I will glance at it.
You can't help it. That's the external source I was talking about, like the flash of light or the boom. It's the little buzz of your phone. Have you ever had
Mm-hmm.
phantom buzzes, like your pocket? It
Yes,
feels
in my
like it
pocket.
buzzes. Yeah.
And I will tell you, man, I probably share too much on this podcast, but I have had a vibration in my pocket, and I reach, and my phone's not even in that pocket.
Yeah, I've done
My
that
phone's
too.
nowhere near it, but I felt it vibrate just
Mm-hmm.
like my phone would.
Mm-hmm.
And but again, going back is like, so we're sitting here. Take the podcast out of it. We're dinner, having a conversation, and my phone lights up, and I look at it. That's
Mm-hmm.
step one of
Mm-hmm.
problem number one. So I glance at it and I see that I have a notification on there. Now I unlock it, go to the app while someone may be talking to me, or while I should be paying attention. And I have to look at what it says and then clear that app off. So my whole point to that was, I feel like how prevalent phones are. Everyone has a phone. I mean, everybody has a cell phone, and everybody has those notifications. Everybody, and so our attention is being drawn to this external source.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of people are older generation, right? I didn't grow up with a cell phone, so a lot of this is new for me. My kids grew up with cell phones; they've never not known about cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of us old people complain about attention and kids and phones, but really, I mean, we're just talking about the human brain and how it reacts to external stimuli.
The hardest thing is when you're engaged with another person and your cell phone buzzes.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you have to make a choice. Do I pull it out of my pocket and look at it? Because that's going to be kind of insulting. So scientifically, using all of these techniques and methods where you can look at the brain, they've found what's been termed a neuromarble, that when your phone buzzes, it deposits a marble in kind of your brain stem, and it starts pressing its way up the brain, and it just becomes like just larger and larger till you feel like you're going to explode. And I actually just made that up. They haven't come up with that, but that's the way I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like something behind me is like going, you got to look, you got to look. And it's so hard to stay focused on what the other person's saying, because it's like, I got to see what that is. And that's ridiculous.
You
that's
just introduced a new thought to me, though. What this is expanding in a great way, but going back to the cell phone, the marble that's pressing up, that is now drawing your attention. Right?
Yes.
I mean, you have something now. So the phone lights up, or the phone buzzes in my pocket. I don't even have it out. It's in my pocket.
If it lights up, I can't make a choice. I just look at it.
That's why I changed that, right? It's in your pocket.
It's in your pocket, yeah.
And it vibrates. And you and I are talking face to face. And so now that creeping thought, of, was that a text? What was that?
Mm-hmm.
I need to look at that, but I don't want to, I need to be in the, so all of that going on, I'm not paying attention as much to our conversation as I was.
You can't.
Before that.
You're shifting back and forth between what they're saying and that thought that's digging in your mind. And then
what was that? That could be an emergency. Someone might need something.
Yeah.
That might be, or it might be Amazon telling me there's a deal that I should look at. But whatever it is, that is now drawing my attention.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh boy.
And so there's also, so now that's a great example of attentional shifting,
right,
between what that person's saying, what your thoughts are. And when people first started studying this, I think this was back in the 1980s that this term came out, or 1970s, the cocktail party effect.
Yes.
It's where you're standing in a group of people and you're involved in a conversation, but there's something that was said behind you or off to the side that caught your attention, like a word.
Mm-hmm.
And so you keep looking at the person in front of you, shaking your head like, yes, yes, as if you're listening to them, but you're actually listening to the conversation next to you. And then if they say, so what do you think? The person you're talking, then you're caught. You're like,
panic. It's panic mode for me.
Panic time.
Because
you
all of that.
Coughing and say, excuse me, I got excuse me.
I'm sorry, I have a thing. I got to go.
Yeah, but that's attentional shifting. And yeah, it does get harder with phones and things like that.
Yeah. And well, I mean, and again, the phone, because I try really hard. Like when we're at dinner, I have my phone by me, but I just put it face down and turn the vibrate off. So my phone's, by me, but I don't want notifications. I don't want it buzzing. I don't want that, because I don't know any other way to shut out that noise. Mm-hmm. when we're there. And again, old man Sean, but when we're at the table or we're watching a movie or we're doing anything and someone has a phone, I'm like, you're not paying attention to the things that,
Yeah. Okay. So this was my pet peeve for years. My kids also grew up with cell phones, and they were in high school. And we would sit down and say, let's have a family movie night.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd all gather in the room, hit the couches and chairs, and turn on a movie. And I would look over, and my kids would have their phones out. And I remember like stopping the movie, saying, and then they would look at me like, what just happened? Why are you stopping the movie? And I would go, what are we doing? Turn your phones off. We're a family together watching the movie. And they would go, I am watching the movie. And I'm like, you can't. You're looking at your phone. I'm watching the movie. So I would like quiz them. What just happened in there? And they, pretty much got it. They would miss a few things, but I would fight that till I just got finally tired of fighting it. It's like, just do if you don't want to watch the movie, then just sit here. I guess I can't control what you're thinking about. So yeah, go ahead, sit here on your phone while we're all watching a movie. And then as I started doing more with my phone and looking stuff up and playing games and all, I hate to admit this, but I find myself doing that.
Oh no,
In
John.
fact, no, seriously, and just this over break, we had a couple different family nights where we watched movies again because the kids came home, and
Hmm.
I before it started, I was like, "Where's my phone?" I had to go get my phone, and then we started the movie, and then I have to be doing something on my phone while I'm watching the movie because I can't just sit and watch the movie now. It's like there's something bugging me if I just sit just to watch a movie. It bugs me. I have to have my phone and be doing something on my phone, and it kills me to admit that, but I understand why my kids would do that now,
Yeah.
and
But
it's
well,
terrible.
so
Yeah,
I want to circle back to what you said is that you can't multitask, but you can shift focus
hmm
between two things.
hmm
So when someone is on their phone playing a game and watching a movie, they're not. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my understanding is they're not catching everything in the movie.
they are
They're
not.
missing things,
I
but
don't
they're
catch everything.
okay. But they're
Yeah,
catching enough to kind of be conversational, but not
yeah. You
fluent.
you get the gist of what's happening,
Right.
and really, kind of our in society right now, that's all you need is the gist, right? You just kind of get the main idea and like enough, and that gets you by, and
Oh,
it's not going into the deep understanding of things. It's just the gist of it. And so can we talk a little bit about, I know that you're usually asking the questions, but can we talk a little bit about social media's effect and influence on attention?
yes,
Okay, so
please.
I think a lot of this is due to social media and social media effects. And let me tell you why I think that. There's a part of it's just kind of how this all lines up that fits in with it. Social media has given us what our brain is starving for. So, for one thing, is anything that's novel or new, we love that. Anything that is emotional in some way, we love that. We want to know, what's new, what's emotional. Is it funny? Is it sad? Does it make you angry? Those types of things are interesting and new and novel. So, social media is great at capturing our attention. It's something that, like, the minute you log into your social media account, there's something there that captures your attention. And those things that are the most emotional usually are the ones that have the most views, so they pop up on your timeline or whatever.
Right. For
The
for you.
algorithms,
Yeah.
yeah, the algorithms will pick those.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the first step, is that it captures our attention, but then it keeps us on it. It keeps us using it. And this comes down to something that's been studied in psychology for years, and it's the reward schedule. You can have fixed rewards that are fixed by uh, time or number of like. So let me just give you an example. So you're teaching a rat to press a bar. You can increase the rat's bar pressing behavior by saying, there's different reward systems. So you can increase it several ways. So one way is to say, well, after every 10th bar press, we'll give the rat a pellet.
Okay.
So it presses, dun, 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 and then the 10th one, the pellet drops out. Well, it doesn't take the rat very long to understand that pattern. So then once it kind of understands a pattern, it will go start exploring the cage and doing other things. And then when it wants a pellet, it will come over and start pressing really quickly till it gets it, and then it will leave. And then it'll come back. So now it's more controlling its button press behavior instead of the reward system. The reward system
Hmm.
isn't controlling it as much. It still controls it some, but not as much. Or there's another where there's a time interval where you'll say, after every 30 seconds, you can press the bar one time or 1,000 times, and nothing's going to happen until you press it after the 30-second time lapse. And rats will figure that out fairly quickly. So
Wow.
they'll go
Wow.
around the cage, and after a few seconds, they'll go over and press the button. The pellet will come out, and then they won't try it during the 29 seconds leading up. And so they learn that. But the thing that keeps them at the bar pressing it is the variable reward, where they don't know. It's not timers. It's just you could press it one time and get a treat. You could press it 50 times before you get a treat. And it could be after 2 seconds or after a minute. There's no way for them to tell that.
Mm-hmm.
So they just stay at the bar pressing it over and over and over and over and over, trying to get that reward. And that's the most effective way to control behavior, which is what, social media, a lot of times you don't know when you're going to get that next bit of content that's really emotional, really exciting, or really funny. So you're hoping for that next highly charged piece of information that kind of keeps you scrolling and scrolling. And then there's also now what a term that's come out recently, FOMO, the fear of
Yeah.
missing out.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to say, hey, did you see that pose, that, whatever it is?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, no, and like, you missed it. And then they have to explain, or other people, everybody in the group laughs except you don't get it. So you have
Right.
that fear you're going to miss out. So those keep you scrolling. I think there's another term now called doom scrolling,
Doom scrolling.
where you
Yeah.
it can just suck you in for hours of just scrolling through social media. And then that leads to habit formation. And now you're in the habit of scrolling on social media to try to get that bump of excitement or novelty or whatever it is you're searching for. And so with time of doing that, your habits are formed, and then that keeps you looking forward to those times when you can be back on your phone. And a lot of people end up with habits. They have a certain time in the morning where they'll take a break, and they got to check it really quick, and then of evening or right before bedtime. So they'll lay in bed and start to scroll, and all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. They're like, what now? They've lost sleep and all of that. But if that is so during the day, you might be at work, or you might be with somebody, a friend or something, or you're engaged in some way, and it's coming up to that time where you normally get on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking forward to that, but now you're engaged in something, and now you're missing your time. And it's almost like it expresses itself as addictive behavior. You start getting agitated with the person, you start getting kind of angry with things. You don't even know why. And it's like, I got to get back to start scrolling again. And that has some really, I don't know if does any of that make sense?
It all makes sense.
And it has some negative effects, but
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have any questions about
Well, I
that?
have a
I'm just
couple.
talking.
No, 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 no. I have a couple, and I'm going to get to this, but I'm thinking about habits. So going back to you starting off not wanting your kids on phones during the movie to now you're doing that.
Yeah.
Is that you somehow built the habit of being on your phone, and it just kind of then happened in that environment? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is. And it's not that you set out to set a habit.
No, 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 no. It's what you do. You're telling your brain this is something we're going to be doing a lot,
We're
right?
going to be doing this a lot. Yeah.
And your
And
brain just goes, okay, this is what we're doing.
yeah, is this how we're going to understand our world now, by looking at these few things? Is this where we're going to get our news and our information because of FOMO and everything else? So it really gives takes a hit on your attention and
Yeah.
attention impairment, and it really shortens your span of attention. So now you're constantly bombarded by these fragments of information, fragmented material, because social media is usually just a few words or a picture or
Hmm.
something like that. So now you're starting, and man, those can pack so much information because of memes and all. Now you really need to understand what a meme is before you can understand what the person's saying. But once you understand it, it's just like, people are so clever. That's one thing I've noticed on social media. We used to have to find the handful of people that became stand-up comedians now you can, on social media, there are so many clever people out there that make you laugh or whatever, but with memes they put up or things they say, it's so funny, and just sucks you in. But now you have a
Hmm.
really short attention span because everything's been just doled out to you in these little fragments of information. So your brain's saying, are we going to understand things through small fragments and kind of reading into these fragments? So now, when you have the opportunity to read something that's going to take 3 minutes, or to hear somebody explain something in depth, you're like, I don't have time for this. This isn't fun. I don't want to do this. Like boil it down. You lose patience. Like, boil it down. And
Right.
so we start expecting sound bites instead of sound reasoning. Like, just give me the sound bite, because now you can say, just a few words, and what phrases are and things that people say,
Hmm.
just that sound bite that they just hammer over and over, that becomes truth. That becomes how I understand a topic, something in science, something in politics. It's just those 4 or 5 words that captures, we think, all of it, when everything is so nuanced. And it used to be like the really people you would look up to were the ones that could explain all of the nuanced ways that things work. You would go, wow, they're really smart. Now it's the person that can come up with a clever 5-word quip. You go, wow, they are so smart, and they don't have to go through any of those nuances. So that's one problem, is attention span, and the other is
Yeah.
cognitive load that we've talked about. It's you burn through resources, you become fatigued, mentally exhausted because of this never-ending information hitting the on channel, and it impairs your ability to concentrate on a task later. It's really hard to focus for any amount of time. Like me, I can't just sit and focus on a movie. That takes an hour and a half. That's too much time. Give me some. So to break that up, I'll just play a game on my phone and look back and forth, because now I can consume it in fragments better than I can just sit and take the whole thing in.
So what I was getting to with both your movie watching habit and the social media part, the habit that could be built, if you can build those habits, I'm assuming it's possible to build other habits. Meaning, is it possible to build a habit where you're not on your phone during a movie?
Yeah, those are harder habits because they go against what your brain wants. So now you've got it. It takes discipline. And, I know like everything I just explained, I know and understand. At least that's the way I understand it and know it. So to me, that's the way things work. And I know that, and I still do it, even though I know it. And I've been thinking about it, not just today. I've been thinking about it in the past, going, I know this isn't good. I know I'm doing something I shouldn't when I'm just on my phone and watching, and I can't. I need to really, and I'll read like books and stuff, and I'll read a chapter or something. Then I have to stop and do something else, and then come back and read it again. I can't just sit and read like I used to.
Hmm.
And so now that we're talking about it, it's kind of uh, shaming in a way, because I know that it's not good what I'm doing. And I'm still doing it, and so I'm gonna make can't do a New Year's resolution. I don't make those anyway, but I'm just going to resolve right now to start using discipline and stop that habit. I want to get back to being able to sit and watch a movie or sit and have a long conversation. And I feel like I still can do that, but I'm wanting to do something more. I'm going to really fight that. I'm going to change that.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I didn't mean to shame you or put you on the spot,
Ashamed of myself.
but
Yeah.
listen, I mean, this whole podcast is predicated on the fact that, and you're not going to like this part, but that you are a very educated, intelligent. I mean, you're the brain doctor, and
What's there
if
not to like about that? No, I'm
well, you
kidding.
know, I know how you are, but you're very
No,
humble. But
no.
listen, this podcast works because of everything you bring to the table. And I think that right now, see what I mean? See that look that you just did? But in all sincerity, if it can happen to you, then when it happens to me and other people like me, then hopefully you're not I'm not flawed. There's nothing wrong with me. This is because we all have human brains,
Yeah.
and we're all susceptible in this case to what our brain desires.
Yep.
And I don't want to, I'm not a tinfoil hat conspiracy guy. I don't know who created these algorithms, who created social media, but it does feel like someone understood that how our brain works, what our brain craves, and gave it to us,
Mm-hmm.
because screen time is what it makes them effective in this business.
Yeah. It's called capitalism. It's the
Yeah.
same way that you don't have to know. And I'm not saying that the social media engineers don't know this, but you don't have to know how the brain works to realize that, oh, when we try some things, people are on their phone more, so let's keep doing more of that. It's kind of like the insurance actuaries that were saying, oh, at 25, people have fewer wrecks, so we'll let the rates go down. And then you find out that's when the frontal lobe fully develops around the age of 25. So like this, the science can support.
Okay, they didn't need to know about the brain to
They
know
didn't need to
that,
know that.
here's what the
Yeah.
numbers are telling us, and just go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's because that's how the brain works, and everybody's brain works similarly.
So how then, because you halfway answered my question. It's hard once you have a habit,
Mm-hmm.
and you said discipline,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm looking for some more suggestions or some strategies. If there's anybody who is sitting here listening right now and going, I am on my phone during movies, or I'm on my phone doing whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you explained why it's some of the negative effects, more limited attention span, all the things that you listed as being negative. So then how do I change it if I want to change that? If I don't want to be on my phone during a movie, what do I do?
Yeah. So, and I was getting ready to ask you to help me with the second part of this, which is
Okay.
accountability. So if you have somebody that you've said, this is what I want to change, and then they just ask you, on a variable schedule, like, are you putting your phone down during movies, or are you still working on that? And then you have to be accountable to them. It keeps you more likely to follow. It makes you more likely to follow through. It kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit. So that's an important part. But I think if somebody wants to stop, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, I'm doing it right now. I'm setting out a plan to say that I'm going to stop. I'm going to put my phone down when I'm watching a movie. I'm just going to put it down. I'm probably going to put it away somewhere. I like to still have it in case when, like, family members aren't home, in case there is an emergency.
Yeah.
So, but I can turn notifications off and leave ringer on, or so, although my kids always text instead of call. Anyway, I'll figure that. It'll be somewhere.
But that's part of making the plan. You have to think it through, and it has to make sense, right?
So it's going to be, I'm not going to have it out holding it, looking at it and the movie. So I'm going to make a conscious effort to put that down. And then I'm going to make a conscious effort to have a shut off point at night so that I don't scroll into the night. So I'm going to say at a certain time, that's going to go off every night. And I think those two things is a good start. Like, I'm not going to get rid of my phone. I can't.
Right.
So you don't have to go extreme. You can say, where is it affecting me the most? Or where do I try to use my phone while I'm doing something else, like multitask? That's the things I'm going to target right at first. And then I know I can already tell you that it's going to be difficult. I'm going to drive myself crazy on the first few movies, because once your brain wants that, it wants it. And there's going to be times like I'm going to be wanting to, let me just check a couple more things, after my time. And nope, you can't. And you have to make yourself not do that. And it's going to drive you crazy, but it'll probably take a few weeks, but maybe in 4 to 6 weeks, that won't be gnawing at me as much. And then there's also that after you get through the first week of doing that, there's kind of just remind yourself, like I'll remind myself of, hey, I'm doing a good job. That's difficult, but kind of keep self-encouragement can go a long ways to help kind of motivate you to keep going. So those are the things I'm going to do, and then find somebody to be accountable to. So I'll ask you, and I'll also ask my wife, because I could answer you, but my wife will be sitting on the couch looking at me going, I thought you were going to put that away while we were watching movies. So I'm going to ask her to help me be accountable.
It's funny. I don't know why this thought sprang into my head, but if you have someone who is physically not in the shape that they want to be in, the correlation between what you just described and that is, even if you don't want to go to the gym, get up and go to the gym. Discipline. Just put your shoes on, and then you'll go to the gym. Discipline. Get a workout buddy who will hold you accountable. Who will make you go to the gym, and then start small. So you don't have to do 50 push-ups day one, but do one. And so if that helps anybody listening to that, is discipline, and accountability, and start small.
And small steps.
If you find that you are doing things that and this goes beyond social media and phones and all of that, but I think it's a good way. It's a good vessel to enter into this conversation. And this is not a self-help podcast, but I think it's interesting on this topic to say that if you find yourself doing things on your phone and attentionally kind of shifting between all of these things, you can fix it. Discipline. Sorry, you know what? There was a fourth thing, and I don't know about the gym part, but have a plan.
Mm-hmm,
So come up with a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline, accountability, start small, and you can build a new habit. It doesn't have to be like this.
Yes, that's right. No, that's perfect. And a habit really is rewiring the back channel so that your urges and impulses are a little bit different. Like you have an urge to pick up your phone and you can stop yourself, and eventually that urge will get weaker and weaker.
Now, the last thing on this, because we're getting close to the end, but to build a new habit, is it fair to say it's like about 21 to 30 days to build a new habit?
Yeah, it's there's not really a good way to put a time frame on it.
Okay.
Because it depends on a lot of things, but you should go into it knowing this is going to take time to set a new habit.
Okay,
So
that was
if you
a
want to
better way
say
of saying
21
it.
to 30 days, that could be your goal.
Yeah.
So because you've been involved in research with us with Preflex, that when we saw the brain kind of rewiring itself with the London Met drivers over in the UK when they were driving at high speeds and practicing, we saw that shifting taking place. That was about 21 to 25 days.
Mm-hmm.
They were practicing hours a day driving on the roads. So if you look at hours, you're going, man, if you have to add up 6 hours a day for 3.5 weeks or whatever, 3 weeks, that's a lot of hours. But then when we went to a steel manufacturing company, they were doing about 10 minutes of mental exercises a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it took 21, 25 days to rewire their brain as well. So the 21 to 25 days was the same. It didn't matter if they spent 10 minutes or 6 hours. It was doing that every day. It's like the everyday process that builds it for most of our habits. That doesn't cover everything, but that covers most things. So I think if you say 21 to 28 days, that's 3 to 4 weeks, you're getting really close to almost any habit you want to form.
Okay, so I was leading you down this path to get to my second question, which you just answered. I want to make that point is because I was asking the wrong question, but I was asking, what does it take to build a new habit, which you answered. My question was going to be, does it take longer to change a habit that you already have? But you just said it. It's the same. It's a similar time frame for both.
No, I don't want to say that. I might have said that, but I don't want to say that.
No, I think I just took.
No.
I think I took your words and made it fit what I wanted.
So a habit, 21 to 28 days.
Okay.
If you're trying to change a behavior and habit, it's probably going to take. It could take a little bit longer than that, and I don't know what the answer would be on how much longer. But I do know that the traces of the old habit are still there. So even at like if you like the phone example that I'm giving, that I want to change my habit.
Right.
So let's say for 9 months, every time I sit and watch a movie, which it isn't actually, I don't do that often. So let's just say it's been a year, and for a whole year, I haven't picked up my phone during a movie or during a television show, and I'm now reading 3 chapters instead of 1 chapter and doing something else in books or whatever. And I'm much more focused, and things have really changed. I'm really happy about that. And then I'm watching a movie and I just decide to check something really quick on my phone and scroll through something.
Yeah.
It's like that pathway gets re-strengthened so fast. And now all of a sudden, a lot of those urges to keep doing that rush back in to where now the next few times I watch a movie, it's going to be that fighting that urge again, because those pathways were there. You've kind of replaced some of that, but once you kind of trigger that again, then you drop right back in. That's why drug addictions are so hard, and why they'll say, try to move to a different area or get different friends, because even sights and different things can trigger, the context can trigger all those feelings to come back, even if you feel like you're past all of that. And it's, on your phone during a movie is a type of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
releases dopamine and norepinephrine and those types of things that are addictive to where you want more of that. Your brain wants more of that.
Yeah. So I was asking that for the final piece for me anyway of this is if someone wanted to change this. So I was going back to the gym analogy, right? And if you start, you have discipline, accountability, start small, you're going to the gym. And after a couple of weeks, I don't know the time frame, but for some people, they don't see any effect. They're not
Mm-hmm.
losing weight, they're not getting stronger, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just kind of like, this isn't working. And so if you understand that it takes a while, if you got to keep doing this for a while to see the results, it's even harder with what we're talking about because you can't see the changes in the brain. There's
Right.
nothing
Right.
physical. You don't see, a number on a scale or muscle tone or anything. And so you have to stay with this for quite a while before you can make those changes. And I didn't even think about what you said at the end was so powerful about how you're clean and sober from your phone for a year, and all you have to do is pick it up once during a movie, and you're right back in it.
Maybe not as deep, but you just
But
fall
you're
right into that so fast.
yeah,
Those things rush back in. I like that. You're clean and sober from your phone.
yeah. I mean, because
Yeah, it feels like that. And
it is a bit of an addiction.
yeah, and I just want to go back and reiterate one thing when you're talking about how to form habits.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the most important things is the plan. Kind of to have the recipe out in the plan, because then you're not having to think and try to apply what you're wanting to do in every situation. Because you can't do that and you get exhausted and you get tired and that doesn't work. It's like saying, I'm going to lose weight this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's so like, well, I could do that by cutting down a little bit of this food or choosing something different to eat or walking, or there's so many ways I could attack that. But if it's just saying I'm going to lose weight, that's such a fuzzy goal
Yeah.
that you're never probably going to reach it. But if you say, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to go to the gym on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm going to try to cut my portion like 10% less on my portions. And now I'm going to now I have the plan in front of me, and even writing it down is really good. And now I'm going to try to follow that plan. That helps you so much more than just saying, I like for me, just saying I'm going to stop using my phone as much, or I'm going to
Right.
stop doom scrolling. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have the plan during movies, a certain time at night, and it's best to write those down. Look at them every day. Look at that plan every day, and then just have the discipline to follow through, and then it becomes much easier. And then the accountability part, obviously, have somebody help you with it, because your back channel will be pushing forward so many urges and impulses to do other things, and your on channel will make excuses, and you'll do it, and then you're gone. But it's hard to make an excuse to another person. We can rationalize things away much easier to ourselves than we can to another person that we've asked to hold us accountable.
Yeah. Who knows about what we're doing?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yep.
yeah, and they ask if you have the right one. They ask really hard questions
Yeah.
sometimes.
Hold your feet to
So
the fire.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and so that I think the good news in all of this is if you want to make a change, that what I'm hearing is you can improve your attention span if you have a limited one.
Yes.
You can make improvements to how you ingest information so that we're not so influenced by sound bites and witticisms and memes or whatever that may be.
Absolutely. Yes.
You do have the power to change this if you want to.
To be a thoughtful, purposeful person. Yes.
Yes.
That should be everybody's goal, I think. I need to get back. That's going to be my goal, to kind of refine that and get back on that track again. Yep.
Yeah. Fascinating. I can't believe, I mean, they all have, but this, for some reason, this episode went so fast.
It did go fast. I don't know how long we've been talking, but
It's an hour and 3 minutes.
wow.
I
Oh,
know.
wow.
So fast, but really for me, as usual, really helpful. Your insight is just, it helps me a lot.
I wonder how
So
many people listening to this had to check their social media and look at different things to get
It's
back
an
on, because
interesting
an
question.
hour is a long time to listen.
It
So I
is.
would probably be playing a game while I'm listening or checking things. I'm going to stop doing that. But
Good. Yeah.
yeah,
How about we don't encourage people to do that? I want them to listen and pay attention. So, dang it. John, thank you so much, as usual, like for your time and your insight. It was invaluable to me.
no, thank you, Sean.
Take care.
All right. Talk later.
And that brings us to the end of another fascinating discussion here on John Teaches Sean About His Brain. I hope you found today's information as insightful as I did. If you're intrigued by what you heard today and you want to dive deeper, I encourage you to go back and listen to our previous episodes where John has laid all the groundwork for so many of these concepts. We're always looking to continue this journey of understanding our brains together. So if you have any questions about the topics we've covered, or if there's any brain-related mystery you'd like us to try to unravel, we'd love to hear from you. You can connect with us on our social media channels. All the details are in the show notes below. Let us know your thoughts, share your insights, and hey, maybe your question will be featured in a future episode. If you like this episode, tell a friend, a coworker, a family member. And if you love this episode, tell two. Finally, if you're enjoying John Teaches Sean About His Brain, finding these conversations helpful, please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. With your help, we can continue on this path and work together to make incredible discoveries about the human brain. Thank you.